what I'm going to show you is very simple. I have to connect to Zoom first. Join Zoom. What's the code number for this meeting? Is 939 474503. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yep.
No, okay, I'm going to share with you. I'm going to show you some pictures. You understand how you die. It's the most horrible way to die. But too many of us are dying, and government are not responding. We have taken charge and let them do whatever they like. I'll show you how you die. This is how your lungs will look. Classification. This will be the shape of your lungs in the last hours of your life. This is a new MRI, less than 3 days old. This gentleman went through, doctors couldn't believe he's changed so fast. They went to intervene, open his body, and he died. Where before he couldn't even breathe. This is how your lung looks. I'll show you more. These are the...
Sorry, Mr. Kеше, there's an echo in the background there. Maybe you could...
if you can leave the audio. Yeah, if you can leave the audio on one of the systems.
It's done.
Okay, thank you.
What I've done, what I'm going to show you, if you're lucky, you get long before this. The situation is out of control with government. The situation is totally out of control with government because they themselves are dying. World leaders are hiding for their own lives. And how can they govern when they have locked themselves away? This is a better condition. And this person in China has survived. Tested and cleared with no virus. You got to understand, when you go through this situation, you lose a lot of controls. In so many ways, you see this song is worse than the other one. And I can even show you the face of the woman. The solidification or calcification of the lung comes through the new salt condition, which carries partially the emotion and physicality together. And as this, every cell of the man carries a calcium center in it, then one understands how to see the change. As the energy changes, it creates the energy of the, what we call gans of the salt of a higher order, and the lung gradually solidifies like a bone. Doctors call it calcification. If you look, it looks like a bone structure. And if you look deeper, you see a harder, much whiter. Now you understand. But the problem with this is, once this virus enters your lung, you have to remember other part of the technology which I taught you. If I take away your kidney, because it was there and I can create the right condition, I can let your kidney grow again in the same position where it's the cavity of it. Because the field of it has been in that space. So in your lung, the field of the virus is always there. You travel, you come across another strength of the virus, it connects up to you because you already got a common denominator connection. So you get hit second, third. But if you keep on using the gas water for time to come, we do not know yet how bad it's going to get in summer, as we see in South America. This virus lives in hot and cold. We never had this. It's a very clever one. So with the gas waters, doesn't matter how mutate, you mutate with it, because you keep a study with your ganses. It's completely there and it's always weak and it loses energy. In so many strange way, we understand the whole process. Now, the knowledge I've given you in past hour or so, it does not, and it's not acceptable by the doctors because it wasn't in their PhD thesis and it wasn't taught in medical school. Now you are more clever and knowledgeable than your own doctors. We have seen people who've gone through the first phase of the virus, and then when we take the virus away, we see the damaged cells going through infection, a second temperature. Some people go through, maybe stronger, maybe weaker, depending on the strength of the virus, which has hit. And we see them by using a course of antibiotic for the advice of the doctors. And once the cell gets repaired, they release the rest of the energy of the virus. You carry on with the same guns. You walk away with average about 6 hours. Try to remember that do not panic. And at the same time, remember this virus can mutate without dimension. And it even has the strength to interact with the energy of the soul of the man as it does with the soul of the physicality of the man. It's extremely intelligent. And his hunger to survive. And what we've seen for the first time, which is extremely frightening. If you do not understand it, you know nothing. But if you're knowledgeable like us, it brings a new dimension into the life of the man. As you see in this lung, is trying to give itself and himself a physical manifestation. And if it reaches that point, it becomes like us being pregnant with a virus who will live within us. We have seen this in space. We have seen this condition in what we call parasites. These are virus parasites, and man at this moment has no knowledge. If you are a lover of Indian food, you understand every herb Indians use in their food that is tasty to you is for them a way of surviving the parasites which is in their environment. They have found a way through herbs and roots to overcome it, be it ginger, being turmeric, being whatever. When I see this picture and the knowledge I carry, it brings me a huge concern, and that is, if this virus becomes a parasite virus as we see it is developing, then in long term, would this parasite takes the body of the man? Would it? It has happened in the universe. It's not the first time we see it. Maybe in a few weeks or a few months or a few years, you understand what I've said in past 5, 10 minutes. If he has managed to create strength and the emotion of the field to create the emotion of the gans of the soul to, in a way, calcify the body of the man, and now he can mutate to understand the strength of the calcification of the calcium, it becomes like a child within the body of the man. But this child would not be given birth by the man, but this child become to be the owner of the man. I have never said to you anything which has not happened or shall not happen. We've seen this mutation. We've seen his intelligence to mutate. If you remember when I gave you the cup of life, I told you the cup has a soul. Now you understand why. Because this virus, as I told you, has a soul. It has created a soul between the energy interaction of itself and the soul of the cell, and it has triggered a known condition in the universe which leads to creation of life. And if the salinity strength field of the emotion is right, it will give life to himself as a physical entity. Maybe you understand the creation of Adam and Eve. Maybe now you understand the essence of the creation in a physical dimension in the universe. Then, was this virus deliberate delivered to, or has it entered to take over all the human race? Now you understand why we say we have to prepare mankind for a space. The parasites of the viruses are in so many worse than parasites in the physical dimension of human life. There are races in the space that have reached compromise between these and their soul, and both live in dimension, and we can see both. In time, mankind will see these creatures in the universe. Remember, the 10-second test, spray test, pH test, and then understand the test of the strength of the soul of the man in this condition. This virus will mutate beyond. This virus can mutate beyond. But the strangest thing is, has taken the shape of the body of the man, and it can live in a cold and warm, and this is what we said with the African swine flu. It's a warm temperature. But we've seen it still ravaging across China in the winter. There's an amazing picture of one of the women I admire in the news. The Chancellor of Germany, in a cabinet meeting, goes to shake hands with one of his ministers, and he refuses. And he says, haven't you heard about the virus? I don't want yours. Or all us become Japanese and bow and never handshake again. Would a kiss become kiss of death from the husband to the wife? Or do we start thinking about everything we do? As we hear, banknotes have become the source of transfer of the virus. Would we have any more value for the banknotes? Or would we all pay with cards with a little circles on it that is just by touch? Then it comes a social structure that I do not work, I have no money, but I know where to print a card that it says I have money, so I create my money and I can feed myself, and is respected because I stay alive. We have seen unseen, unbelievable scene in governments where the hungry people, not being able to feed themselves, take their lives in their hand and they walk the streets, and then somebody executed because they have no permit, as they have no food. Being dead by the virus or a bullet is the same. End of suffering. Would we see this on the streets of Washington, New York, and Los Angeles? 99%. Give me time. We celebrate Nowruz in Iran with the clear nation of the virus. And unfortunately, we have to see other nations to suffer. I have made one commitment to the Iranian nation. We lead this virus out of the nation. Then we have to see, would the world leaders come to Tehran because it's a free virus zone and not out of peace? Or do we get them there and then they force themselves into peace? We have to watch. Iran ambassador to Vatican has died of the virus in the past few days. Would we see the same in Vatican? if the Romans took the disease with them to United States and Rio, they're so religious, they go to Vatican every Sunday. Would there be an empty building with no priest, as all have died of the virus? And would the man judges his creation and the creator? As we hear, the Pope has cancelled the last Sunday Mass with himself. How many infected people from different parts of Italy have been to Vatican and have sprayed and touched, kissed and cuddled every water as you enter, everything that it can be touched. The house of God has become the house of death. Didn't they do the same in Iran? Aren't we now taking our belief in our Creator into our hearts because we cannot go to Mass? And that was one headache. The worst nightmare for Liverpool football team was that after years they were just about to win the British Cup, and now by cancelling the football season because of the virus, all dreams have gone. No schools, no football matches, no interaction in the society. As a woman said to me in the Iranian chat, you know, Mr. Keshe, all us sisters, 3 sisters with our grandchildren, we all met 10 days ago. And it was such a beautiful time. And now all the grandchildren are, and the daughters, all the sisters are coming up with the virus. And the child is in hospitals, and the second one from the another. Will it come to the point that we do not even meet each other's family out of the fear? Or do we move to the new knowledge that we took flowers, now I bring you a more beautiful way of producing guns, the way in Iran they're gifting each other. The Iranian Keshe Foundation team is amazing. They reach the victims, they spray themselves, they cover themselves, and give it to them, and they teach them how to use it, how to do it. And sometimes they're on the phone with me, with a sick person, sitting next to them. And they said they're wearing a mask. I have no mask. In the past 48 hours, Iranian knowledge seekers with the Ganses have sat with the heads, with the leaders of the nation and those of a man of the street, and treat them the same. And on both times, I'm on the line because they want advice. Knowledge and life knows no border, no seat, and no power. My only regret will be the ones who save will have used this power and this position. As I said to one of the knowledge seekers in Iran, carry the World Peace Treaty, get them to sign before they die. You want the help, you sign the World Peace Treaty. You're a head of the nation, you're a minister, you sign. Commit your nation to peace. And then you'll see you keep, and it's for his soul. And you give him the paper and said, this is the promise you made to humanity and your soul, and this is a cup of life to keep that promise. But what I see is the same again during the Roman time. The Romans believed in the god of Iran, the Mary, what we call the Mitra. Would we see the repetition again? Would we follow the same? Would humanity follow the path of peace after this, or this is another crisis we passed? This time these crises will stay with a man and become the control of the soul of the man. This parasite is a parasite of the soul of the man. Soon you will understand. Now you have the full story, and I give you more. If the time comes that the nations get hit with a shortage of food and fuel due to the closure of the gates and borders and roads, two things will happen. All nations decide we all have the problem, we all cross, doesn't matter, and they get more mixed, and different virus combinations will appear. Or it becomes total shutdown of the borders where even there is no soldier to guard as is died of the virus. We enforce the end of the national borders through natural calamities, process that the man has done to himself. We've seen the abuse by some of the world leaders of the position and time, and you will understand. The interesting point is how the world leaders, even in the time of crisis, by habit of stealing and robbing nations, cannot stop. They go to Switzerland to make sure their bank accounts is well ready for the bribe they're about to receive in the next country they meet, signing huge military contracts on the behalf of their nations. But the wisdom is, do we have any soldiers to protect, and do we need these arms? You have to understand something very simple. Chinese government and Chinese nation in past 30 years have become so advanced, and people have become more, and the nation is more clean and hygienic. And still with this, we have seen massive death and infection. You got to be very clever and understand the truth. A government does not close and shut the nation of 1.4 billion because of 2,000 deaths. A government shuts nations when there is 2 billion deaths, 20 billion deaths. At the same time, if you have a nation who's become so advanced like China and so clean, loses so much, do you believe only one thing? Where a nation is clipped between the worst two nation heads of the China and Iran with a virus, has only 5 deaths till the president leaves and signs the biggest military contract he wants to sign, if he managed to sign it. And the state of India says only have 3 or 5. Is the news getting manipulated for the benefit of some? that they can steal the nations even in the time of trouble? Or would we see bodies on the streets of Delhi and wherever, because there is not even a place to burn them? Or have the governors of India have lied to the nations, and the situation is far beyond? Don't forget, India has a very healthy Chinese business relationship. And India has a better, healthy relationship with the Iranian governments and their works. And the only report 3, as of yesterday or 2 days before, because now the thief has come and gone. Let me explain to you something you understand the gravity of what's going to hit you. Lisa, are you in the background? Lisa is the Earth Council for Australia. Are you there, Lisa? Do we see her in the background?
I am here.
Lisa, you live in Australia, and could you tell us, as you were telling me, what is the effect of the Chinese not coming back to the city, the students and the rest?
Well, we have a very high percentage of student population which comes from China, because it's a way for the Chinese to learn English, and also it's a way for the Chinese to get visitors to, for visas to be able to live here permanently. They first become a student. So there's a very high population of students that are Chinese. And because the new year starts in February, of course, none of the students were coming back into their new year of classes. And so there is a peripheral effect around the economy with huge amounts of property problems, with rentals not being filled, property with jobs that are now vacant, or that the peripheral economy around the students is very much affected. Besides everything else, besides things like, so explaining this earlier on, because we have 60% of our toilet paper coming from China, everyone's hoarding toilet paper. So there's very strange economic effects going on around here. And but yes, it's hitting us in ways that are not quite apparent yet.
What is the effect on the shops and restaurants?
Well, yes, there are a lot of Asian restaurants that are closing down. Some have already declared bankruptcy within the last week or two. There are already places declaring bankruptcy because our economy has been slightly depressed already. This is just the last straw, really. And yeah, it's quite a difficult one, because nobody seems to be really also even taking it seriously. We'd heard reports that some of the universities were offering students to come via third countries so that they could get around the quarantine to come back to school. But I think that's playing with fire.
What do you see economically?
Yeah, it's slowly starting. In the cities mainly. I can't see it totally locally because we're in a small rural community. So we don't have much of what's going on in the big cities. But it's just economically depressed And the tourism industry has just crashed. That is one thing that's completely crashed. My daughter works in tourism, and the place that she works at, their sort of turnover, their monthly turnover has dropped dramatically in the last 6 weeks.
Can Australia in the long term stand such a loss?
No, we can't. I don't think we can, because as a country, we have very little manufacturing. We have very little of, old traditional style GDP. Our GDP comes from other sources. It comes from selling homes to each other. It comes from mining. It comes from tourism. And no, I think that it's going to take such a knock that it won't recover in a hurry, because all our just about everything in components comes from China. So Jim and I were discussing today, actually, and I thought, I don't want to be alarmist. I don't want to be ridiculous, but even if something is made in this country, a lot of the packaging or the components come from China. If there's major disruption, are those things not going to be available? And what knock-on effect is that going to have? A simple thing like us selling our lettuce, if suddenly all the plastic is not available for us to put our lettuce into bags, then we can't sell it in a shop. What then? So just all of these intertwined things in economies around the world makes me really wary. Even if the virus becomes really mild over the next year, it's still going to economically hit nations very hard if China's not even back up and running yet. And they aren't for the foreseeable future. That's a big worry.
What is interesting is that now we see governments are not in control anymore. It's nationals which are not going to the Chinese restaurant, they're not buying Chinese goods. Yesterday, I went, and the day before, to 3 major supermarkets to test something, to see something. All the tomatoes, anything with the Italian name on it, is not moving much on the shelves. What we saw Chinese restaurants empty, as I said last week, now we see Italian restaurants empty. Now, as I said in a very recent talk, when America gets hit, how many of you will not go to McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and others? And when we draw a line, the way they stopped Chinese, are no flight coming out, there is no flight out of Iran, closed borders, and now they're closing each other's borders for whatever. The nations who say they have none, they have a lot, but they don't want to report. Because they do not know how to handle the crisis. Our ministers are the ministers of incompetence, because they were ministers as long as it was honey and what we call loot. I called a minister wanting to speak to him, and he says, "It's my time. I don't want to speak about business during my time off." I was shocked. You're a minister of health and you don't talk. We'll see, people will take position, and we'll see the change in the long term by all of us towards ourselves. We start taking self-responsibility and what we call self-endurance. As I said, I was going to teach something to you new last week, but I wait till that time comes when there is a need for it, because at the moment is nothing. But that time you'll understand it. That time you come to understand it, because you have to feed the child, or you have to steal, or you have to die of hunger or the virus. But the reality is, are we getting tested? There is no way, under no circumstances, this virus can be controlled. It's out of control in every nation. And how many of us will come out of it and go back into it? The Chinese have shown mutation. The Chinese have shown large number of people who came in for the first time, they were cleared out. Now they have come with the second one and they die. They come with a third one now in some cases and they die because the virus is mutating. The virus is continuously mutating. In so many ways, human race has made its own match. You killed enough, now you get killed by yourself. You can't blame no one, there is no war. We finished the wars on mankind, on each other, but mankind did not finish the war with his own soul and his own dimension. One of the most important parts of the teaching in coming weeks is the survival. I showed you how to protect and work within and around this virus. Now, I show you how to live with it. How to use it to feed you, how to use it to nourish you, how to use it to protect you. Name of the game is understanding the work of the fields in the universe. In so many ways, as Lisa told us, the economical position will change very drastically. Too many containers are stuck in China, and too many containers are Chinese, nobody has uploaded. Most probably China is telling us in March they start supplying, but what in fact is in the background, we don't care how people die, the nation has to go through. Now it becomes a natural process death. Anything died by the virus does not count anymore. The way China now is gathering the statistics, there are no reported deaths. But unfortunately, we see many cremating machines appearing in the cities. If you don't have any deaths, what do you need to burn them? Satellites report shows different reality in different parts of China. When you burn the body, creates a specific traces, and the international satellite and the spy satellites telling us the burning is beyond. Don't forget, Keshe Foundation has one of the strongest national security teams in the world, dedicated to perfect, correct information. The death toll in Iran, I don't want to put fingers on it, but I can tell you, you don't want to know. As I said to a friend of mine yesterday, he said, you know, it's very strange. Usually when there is a national committee meeting, we see many people around the table. Yesterday, the picture is only 3. and they're all sitting 5 meters apart from each other. But the interesting thing is, if this virus is mutating through the whatever is soul, would it translate and transfer through the soul of the man, or would it be able to get down the telephone line through the voice of the man? There's a lot of things coming to me that they say G5 system is responsible for it. Excuse me for that. We don't have G5 around here, as far as we know. And it's mortality rate after 30 days now is 100%. With certain strength of the virus. There is a hypocrisy. Some doctors have come. As it goes to more and more bodies, it becomes weaker. But somehow it gathers energy again at that weak point from the other strength points and becomes stronger when it comes back. Let us understand the plasma technology. Let us understand the state of the affairs internationally. And in so many ways, we need to understand how and the way to do it. There is a process, there is a way, and there is a school of thoughts that world leaders will become world leaders, stable leaders, but how far more and how far less will come. Summer, winter, autumn. Rio has shown us in the war. Europe in the cold winter in Italy has shown us is living in the cold. The problem is how far mankind is ready to evolve. Vaccination.
Excuse me, Mr. Kеше, we have some background noise there with the microphone hitting something.
My finger. At least you haven't resigned yet, Rick, this time. It's good.
That's way better, thank you.
But you have to understand, we'll make a direct attempt in Brazil conference to bring some sanity to this situation before Tehran conference. The Keshe Foundation team has made ready equipment and will have equipments ready on hand within the next few days to cover the state of Italy, Austria, Germany, with a rapid response. The systems will be taught and then it's for the nations to develop. We have to go through this process. The governments have to feel the pain before they accept the solution. As an Italian friend of mine said, I cannot fly. The airport is closed in Italy in Northeast. I have to fly to earn my living, but there is no flight. Where I want to go, they have canceled the flight. We see flights out of Italy still carrying on to the other part of the world, spreading it like flies. You got to remember certain criterions. United Arab Emirates gave vaccination to all its citizens by force at the earliest stages about 3 weeks ago. But they have not managed to control the virus because they closed the schools as of this week for 4 weeks. And I promise you, it'll come to March, they go another 4 weeks, and then they say it's the summer holidays we go through. We will see the same in many countries. Chinese have gone on the internet teaching, so the schools are not shut. The other nations will choose different paths.
we become nation of isolation. No one talks to no one in case they get a virus, or you carry a bottle with you across and you put a sign, I carry a gun with me. We got to understand this situation is going to get critical. It is already critical in a number of countries, but do you know when you will hear it? When the Americans get hit in the next 2 weeks. All the ones from Rio in the, what do you call, partying, who have brought the virus will land in Los Angeles and different part of the America. It will spread to the other part of the Brazil. It will spread right across North America, and then they start dropping like flies. Most of these countries have no equipment for emergency, mass emergency acceptance. It takes months to build the hospital. Chinese, within 4 weeks, they build the hospital for those who are infected, which is actually warehouses with beds to die in. Because when you send one person from Italy to Rio and get so many infected, can you imagine you put 1,000 infected in one room? Who do you expect to come out alive? It's become a prison of the man. In so many ways, there's an old say in English language. You send young boys, which done a petty theft, to prison to come out 2 years as graduate and PhDs in all the criminal activities. They have nothing to do. They're with a bunch of others who are expert in it. So they do the same with the man where the virus in 1,000 of them in one locked up place. What do you think? Will you send any of them out? Isn't execution on the streets the best solution than suffering of a long time? As is done by some nations today. Many of you are asking, how do I make answers? What is this? What is that? How can I do that? Stop asking questions and just make it the way it is. I'll show you a way to do it, the fastest way for many of you. And this is in a way, a simple way, shared last week. Comes from our Iranian friend. You have, this thing has to be locked in before I can use it. Okay. You have, make yourself 2 stars. One with a copper. One nano-coated. And one zinc. Make another star the same way. Then, as we taught you, get a simple cup. Get 2 cups. Hang your nanocord in the middle of the star. Put your coppers on same side if you're facing each other, and put your two zincs on the other side. Very simple. Connect the two outside together on both sides. And then connect to each other center. That's all you need to do. Then fill it up with water. You need no battery. You need no wires. You don't need any confusion. The beauty with this is very simple. Each cup has its own soul, as I explained before. Now, these two cups can mutate with the virus. Mix the waters from the two cups. Mix the ganses and wash them and drink it. There's one principle you have to understand. When you extract the ganses, they're always salty. You have to put this in the water as many times as possible Ni hao, bye. This crazy fan. And the water you take from the top of the gans has to be sweet, no salt. And in that process, just 1 second, please. I have to answer this. Sorry, it's from China. I had to answer it. The totality is when you take this water, has to be no salt. The water you wash with the salt in it till you get the sweet water or no salt water, you can keep and use it for sterilization, the environment, the house, the room, the door, the lift, but you never use the salt water on the body. This salt water has advantage because when it dries, it creates like a little spots of white on wherever it sits because it has salt on it. And with it has trapped the energy of the gans. So When you put it in the room, it covers the whole room by energy transferring across. You disinfect not the whole environment with it, if you understand the transfer of energy with the ganses. When you get the gans with no salt on it, wash your breasts and the back, the chest area totally. Wash your head, front and the back. Drink at least 100 ml 3-4 times a day of the water, and you have to breathe at least once a day, 10 or 15 minutes. If you go into the critical condition, it's worse. You have to do it totally different way. That you have to increase it, and in critical condition, that position, you increase the washing of the breast and the head to every half an hour till normality in the temperature is gone. In Iran, we have 100% success. We will release data. The world, nationals, people, governments ask us, show us. We show you people. We found very good actresses, as I said before. Some of these people are public figures in Iran. Some of these people are family of the public figures in Iran. Some of these people are scientists themselves. And this technology knows no mercy, knows no palaces and no cardboard boxes on the streets of Vatican. The strangest thing is, would anyone dares anymore to overlook a lot of things with the viruses now that the viruses have become part of us? In so many ways, do not get yourself in a position of no return. We have seen people who had a temperature and a fever, they use the gas water and that's it, they forget. And 2-3 days later, they come back with a worse. Make sure once a day, twice a day, once a week, twice a week, you just keep on spraying yourself. And if you see the sign of it, to do a test 10 seconds every morning and evening, you know if you are infected, you see it. One point which most of you must know is do not panic, even when you get it. This virus is emotionally controlled, and we've seen deaths in Iran with people who show no sign of the virus, no fever, no temperature, no coughing, but we see in their body the what they call the virus, and they die of a heart attack or a brain hemorrhage. We see a lot of brain hemorrhage deaths in Iran because of the fear and the virus working through the head and the what we call the lung. One thing which most of you will understand is this. These are the first time we're releasing this knowledge, and it's very important for many of you to understand, even share it with doctors. As I explained to you before, that the lung and the heart, how this energy transfers. What we see in majority of the cases, people who are infected, the pain in the center chest, known as solar. But in this position, you feel the energy. This is where the virus is taking its energy from. And this is when this solar gets damaged or runs out of energy, is when the line of communication, literally disappears and gets dissolved. And in so many ways you see that. Because as its name goes, is the star, is the center, is where the energy has come from. And you will find out that the solar plex runs out of energy, the soul runs out of energy, and the death occurs. If the soul runs out of energy, separates the body too. A lot of people talk about the pain in the back of their chest, and then a pressure on the heart and all the solar plex before they die, or at the beginning of the virus. And a lot of people talk about the pressure in the back of the head, somewhere inside, but they cannot say where. When you have these, don't panic. Just wash as many times as you can, frequently with it. Wrap yourself in it. Wet your t-shirt, wet your clothes. As I was explaining to one of the knowledge seekers, spray your brow. Your women are in a better position than we are, because the cross brow, all the brows, literally have a pinpoint right on the solar plex. Put a pad on the back brow, on the straps, with the gans. You're done. Wash your brow again in a CU of water. Don't touch it. That way, leave it there for 5 minutes. It drains the energy. If you see it coming back, change the brow or use a t-shirt. But you have to clean it through CUO, that it takes its energy off. Those of you who faced with pain in the body, spray your body. Means that the virus has entered the body tissues through the soul of the strength of its soul. I have set up a chat, and this is only for rescue. And we put people to start answering this chat in the coming time, because ourselves we're trying to sort this out with many people, that this can be handled by competent people and those who understand. The line is called Coronavirus Emergency Center. Do not send to us, I made the GANS part, this is that color, that's that color. Will not get any response. The emergency team worldwide will try to find a way, and it has to be set up by all the what we call Universal Council members have to handle this themselves. They have to come in and start looking after these, because it's in their languages. Trying to set up centers and connection with the people in the country to respond. The way it's done by the Iranian team. Which means we have to organize people who are in position to be able to help, to send help. I don't know if the Iranian team are in the background, who are working relentlessly to bring these things into position. And if I could see them, they could explain to you how they're supporting and how they're running this. If anybody from the Iranian team, Mrs. Shahzad Mohammadi, she's online, she's the head of Iranian team. Would you like to come in and tell us what you're achieving in Iran, please? Mrs. Mohammadi. She's in attendees, if you can promote her to the panelists, please.